Regional Coordinator for the Bauta Family Initiative on Canadian Seed Security. I'm joined today by Michelle Smith out in Cape Breton, Nova Scotia with Northwind Farm, who's doing part 2 of maybe 3 in a series on tomato seed saving.
How much information people want.
Yeah, okay, great. And some folks that are participating in the community grow out program through the Bauta initiative, who are involved in growing out this Doucette Petite Bec and maybe some other varieties. I don't know if you folks are doing the beans and sunflower seeds, but yeah, so yeah, the idea today is just open forum for asking any questions you have at this stage in the process. And Michelle, if you have any other general advice to share, that would be welcome. But okay, now that's my end of my introduction, so feel free to jump in.
I think, Charlene, your mic is not on. There you go.
No, I think it's on.
Oh, there it is. Okay, all right. So did you have any specific questions about the grow out? You know, how's it going?
I guess we weren't really clear what this session was about. We're actually not involved with your grow out, which is interesting.
Oh, we are? Yeah.
Oh, we're doing the sunflowers.
We're doing sunflowers.
Okay, sorry, we're doing the sunflowers. Sorry, but we're not doing the tomatoes. But we're interested in learning about the other things that you're doing. And I've never seed saved from tomatoes myself, and I'm really interested in learning.
Well, that's really good. Have you got a variety that you'd really like to preserve yourself right now, that you'd like to work on?
I do. I have a large garden at home, and I have a plot at the community garden as well. And so this year I'm just doing sunflowers there because I don't really need one for our family. But here at home, I have some varieties of tomatoes that I'm interested in saving. Like I have a coyote tomato, which is a yellow cherry, indeterminate, and I have a couple of, like a sweetie tomato that I'd like to keep. And,
yeah, I know. Yeah. So first question I have to ask, and it's the one that's going to make or break your heart, right? You know, is how far away are your tomatoes from other varieties of tomatoes? Like, so your coyote tomato, is it right beside some other tomatoes that you've also planted?
Some of them are, but some of them are not.
Okay, well, the thing is, the minimum isolation distances for tomatoes are at least 20 feet for a home garden. So you have to have that variety separated by at least 20 feet. I separated by a lot more, but I'm just telling you, this is what you would do for a home garden kind of grow out, right? They have to be separated from other ones to prevent cross-pollination, right? And you know, and the thing is, I'm guessing you've got a wonderful diverse garden with lots of pollinators flying around and everything like that. That's why if you can go longer, you should, right? You know, the healthier your garden, unfortunately, the more you have to respect your isolation distances. The other thing you have to think about is, this isn't as important a question for your first year of trying this stuff, but how many plants are that 30 feet apart or 20 or 30 feet apart? For a home garden grow out, you would want at least 6, 12 would be better, you know. Okay. And that's to prevent inbreeding depression. Now, tomatoes have a lot of mechanisms that they don't really mind 1 year of inbreeding depression, but for future years, you'd want to make sure that you had a really good, sizable genetic base. Because the whole point of the open pollinated seeds is that they're different from hybrid seeds in that hybrids come from 2 very narrow, distinct parent lines that they then cross. And they're sort of like the super athletes, really adapted to you know, ideal conditions. You know, you feed them high, you know, you get tremendous productivity, tremendous disease resistance, but they're a genetic dead end, because if you plant the seeds of a hybrid, you're not going to get an actual tomato. So open pollinated relies on more of a general population health, right? So that means you've got to keep that general population of at least 6 to 12 tomatoes for a home grow out, right? And that gives you a broader genetic base to draw on to get resistant characteristics They're never going to be as productive as a hybrid variety, but they're going to be a lot more resilient in challenging conditions. And of course, with climate change, we're all living in challenging conditions. So those are the two things that you might or might not find it worthwhile to save your tomato seeds this year, you know, that cross-pollination thing and that minimum population. Now, I would say go ahead and do it anyway, right? You know, but don't put those seeds out in the community, right? Those are just for you to experiment with. Don't take them to a seed exchange or put them in a seed bank or anything like that. Just have fun with it yourself. It'll give you good practice for what you've got to do to look for disease and observe your plants while they're growing. But you won't be kind of, how do I put it? Multiplying your mistakes by putting them out into other people's gardens. It's just the responsible thing to do, you know? So
you said you plant a seed from a hybrid plant, you won't get a tomato.
You will get a tomato, but you might get like a big beefsteak tomato. They often revert to a wild type. You might get a little currant tomato the size of your thumbnail, right? What you're going to get is going to be completely up random. You know, you have no idea whether it'll be any good, whether it'll grow for you. You know, it's fun. It's cheaper than lottery tickets, but it's got about the same amount of chance of winning. You know, that's the trouble. You know, and that's why hybrid seeds are so expensive, because every time you want that seed, you have to take those narrow parent lines and cross them and get the seed. Cross them, get the seed. You cannot, you know, you can't get anything reliable from the seed of the hybrid itself. So that's why, you know, for seed saving at a farm level, you know, hybrids are not evil or anything like that, but seed companies are very proprietary about their parent lines. You know, that's the big secret, right? And they're very good. They get, you know, you know, we've been making hybrids for thousands of years, but for the home garden or the farmer-based grow outs, you know, you want to concentrate on open pollinated seeds, you know, ones that do not say F1 in the description or hybrid or whatever. And that's that strength. Yeah. So go ahead.
Spinach that I enjoy, I like to eat is the hybrid spinach, and I just keep buying seeds because
yeah. And you're gonna have to keep buying seed, you know. Now I'm you know, I'm not a purist. I don't only grow open pollinated seeds. Onion seeds, for one thing, are very hard to produce in our climate at anything more than a hobby level, right? You know, I've managed it some years and had a good crop, but most years I don't have any luck with it at all. And they also don't store as well as the hybrid seeds. You know, onion seeds are, you know, just go for the hybrid onions, you know, give up now. I shouldn't say that, but they really are a real challenge in this climate. You know, they need that long, dry growing season in their second year, you know, and storage. And they only last one damn year, right? You know, you go do all that work of producing onion seeds and they're only viable for a year. So they're kind of heartbreaking, you know. It's better to focus your efforts
they make
on.
you cry in more than one.
Yeah, that's it. But so like I said, I grow a mix of hybrid and open pollinated seeds on my farm. So, you know, but the good thing about planting tomatoes, you know, for seed is that, like, I actually grow about, well, no, I didn't this year because of you know, different logistical problems here at home, but I have grown up to 50 different varieties for seeds, right? But I do not grow and all at once. But I don't grow them all at once. I will grow like 10 on a rotating basis, right? You know, so I'll have 5, you know, I'll grow 10 one year over a 5 cycle, right? So that makes a total of 50. So all the tomatoes I want to eat, I'll plant in what I call the mongrel garden, and I don't bother saving seed. And then I'll plant the seed for seed stock in that properly isolated, you know, minimum population beds that are separated from the mongrel garden. And because you can process tomato seeds, and I mean, and we can talk about it now, but we can also talk about it in the fall, closer to the time. If you process tomato seeds properly, they will stay viable for 10 to 15 years. So you don't have to grow all your seed stock every single year. You can do it every 5 years if you like with tomatoes. Beans as well. Beans are very long-lived, and squash. Squash, not quite as long-lived as beans and tomatoes, but still pretty viable after a few years. So that's the beauty of storing and saving seeds properly, is you don't have to do all your seed saving work every year, all in 1 year. You can space it out. Did you want to talk about how to harvest the seeds? And because if you're getting tomatoes soon,
Yeah, I'm interested. The only thing I know, they need to be fermented. That's all I know. So.
No, that's a very good start, right? Yes. Now, again, try and save a selection of fruits, right? And if you can, ripen them on the vine, but if you can't, you can ripen them on trays indoors. Your germination will be a little bit lower, but in a hard year, whatever, right? You do what you can. So what you'll do is you scoosh the seeds in a jar, and you'll ferment it, as you say, for 3 to 4 days. And, your teenagers will be embarrassed at the fruit flies buzzing around the kitchens. Pay them no mind. It doesn't matter. That's why you have teenagers, is to embarrass them, right? So, and then once they fermented, what that fermentation process does is it dissolves a little gel coat around the seeds, and it also inoculates the seed against bacterial infection. So you can take all that, gooey goop, it might even have mold on it, and you put it put it all in a fine sieve and run it under cold running water until the seeds are all clean. All that goo will just wash right off. And then to dry them, and this is important, you don't want to put them on a paper towel or anything that the seeds will stick to, because that will damage the seed coat. You want to dry them if you can. I dry mine on screens that I have on little frames, but I also do a lot of seeds at once, so you don't have to do that. But if you have a screen or just a shiny plate or the lid of a yogurt container or whatever you've got, you dry them on that, not in direct sun, not in direct heat, just air dry, until you can take the tomato seed, and when you pinch it between your thumb and your forefinger, it will break, it won't bend. And that's when it's dry enough to put into a jar, a good mason jar with a good seal on it, and that will keep for 10 to 15 years, even as long as it's out of direct sun and heat and stuff like that. So the main thing that will destroy the germination ability of a seed is moisture in storage. So that's why you have to make sure they're absolutely dry. There's ways to even, if we get a really damp, wet fall and the humidity is really high and you're having difficulties, there's ways to do it with silica gel, but they're a little bit tricky and it's easy to over dry the seed. So I don't normally recommend it. I just recommend just air dry and wait till nice crisp all day, when you can take the seed and when you can take the seed and put it in the mason jar. And a mason jar with a good seal is important to reduce that humidity. So that's sort of a lot of information all at once. So as I say, in the fall, we'll maybe meet again and we'll kind of recap some of the important points of seed processing and storage and stuff. But also, I should say this: label the damn tomato seeds, because you will forget which one was in which jar. I have little clothespins that I write on with a China marker, and that's how I label my jars, so that I don't mix them up. So, I mean, maybe you're a lot smarter than me, but I have,
No, I'm terrible with labeling. I did a video yesterday saying, I don't remember what kind of tomatoes these were, but
yeah, that's it. That's pretty much it. And I have, and I have, in 1 year, I mixed up 2 different jars and I couldn't remember which was which. I had to grow them out the next year and go, okay, you're Italian Stallion and you're Principe Borghese. Okay, fine. But, that was a year wasted, right? So anyway, just, you may as well make different mistakes than I've made. Yeah.
Welcome, Tom. Someone else popped on the webinar here while we were chatting.
Okay.
I don't know if you have any questions. If you're just popping in to listen for now.
You want to inside your house, not outside? Because I've seen somebody do it outside before, but you want to keep maybe the heat down, or?
sorry, the heat or
For
the
fermenting?
heat. Oh, fermenting. Oh, don't do it outside because you don't want it in direct sun. Just you know, on top of your fridge is a good place. You know, you don't want it really warm, you know, or like boiling hot or anything like that. And that's, you know, the sun would really do that. And of course, in the fall, when you're mostly doing this, the nights are cool. So you know, the kitchen is good. Like I said, I have them all on the top of my refrigerator, and my kids used to roll their eyes and whatever, it doesn't matter. You know, get them used to it at a young age.
I'm sure they enjoy to eat the fruits of it. So.
Oh, look at that. There's a good helper there.
Yeah. My youngest of 6.
Oh, 6. You've got a lot of indentured servants you can draw on. Yeah. You know your teenage son is okay when he wants to shell beans with you on the couch while you watch Die Hard.
Oh, that's lovely. The kids are all right.
That's right.
Michelle, I wonder if you could talk a little bit about roguing for folks who might be at that stage of trying to find off-type characteristics and that sort of thing.
That's a good idea. That's sort of more of a progression than a beginner seed saving thing. But roguing is very important when you might have off types, you know, like any population. You want it to be relatively consistent. You should not rogue too hard because you don't want to narrow your genetic base. And when you're roguing, you have to keep in mind that minimum population. So, for example, if your minimum population you've decided is, say, 20 plants, and you've only got 21, well, basically, you should keep all but one of those plants, you know, and that minimum population is minimum. It's better to have more if you possibly can, right? And when I'm saying 20 plants, I'm talking about more the level for commercial growers, like, and by commercial growers, I would mean probably like myself, who does it for the gene bank, of course, right? Anyone who does it for a seed company. But I would also suggest that anybody who puts their seeds out into the public domain in any way, either through a seed sharing cooperative or a seed library or anything like that, please respect the commercial growing distances and minimum populations, because the thing is, if you make mistakes with the home garden or you've not got a good genetic base on your home garden, it only affects you. But when you affect other growers, you not only wreck their day, but you also give open pollinated seeds a bad name, right? You know, so like we have a seed library here in Sydney, which is wonderful. And the librarians all ask me, well, what do we do if people bring seeds back? I say, we say, thank you very much. And then we put it in soup, right? Because, you know, I don't want to give their library a bad reputation by recirculating seeds that may or may not have been grown properly. You know, hopefully we'll get to the point where we have enough trusted growers that we can accept seeds back. But right now we're just beginning and we're not at that stage. So when I say 20 plants, that's that commercial level, you know, for regularly open pollinated seed, right? So as I say, I try for 30, 40 plants, and I might take out 3 or 4 that maybe are a little bit susceptible to disease or are not real good growers or anything like that. I won't really rogue hard, generally speaking. When I do, which I have done in the case of some beans, when we had a horrible wet fall, and these beans were just riddled with anthracnose and other leaf blights and everything like that. And I barely got any seeds at all, but the seeds I got were blight resistant. So I rogued really hard for 3 to 4 years. And now I have a strain of Black Valentine beans that is extremely blight resistant, which is just gold in a Cape Breton climate, right? But when I talked to the bean researchers at the Morden Agricultural Station, they said, don't rogue that hard beyond 4 generations, because then you're going to lose the genetic diversity that is the resilient part of this way of plant propagating. So like I said, for roguing, and this is an advanced kind of thing, this is not a beginner thing. Don't rogue at all if you've only got a few plants, right? You know, but when you get to the point where you've got a larger population and you want to really push the variety, maybe get ones that are more cold tolerant or suited to heavy soils or whatever you're looking for, that's fine. but don't push it past 3 or 4 generations, or you're going to be narrowing your genetics too much. You're going to use the resilience of a population based plant propagation approach. So there we go. That was a lot of information. I know that was not the Reader's Digest version. Sorry, Caitlin, but that stuff is really important.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Was there any other questions that anybody had, or that you had on your list?
I'm gonna leave space for others before I ask mine.
No, good. I realized I know very much.
Okay. I did just have one around if folks find that that their plants are getting attacked by some kind of blight, or they notice some kind of disease, are those fruits still okay to save, or what do you do when the plant isn't super healthy?
In fact, it's sort of how do I put it? It's sort of counterintuitive, I suppose. But actually, you want seeds from the plants that get attacked by blight but survive anyway, right? That means they're tougher, right? I mean, yeah, ones that are totally succumb to the blight, yeah, they're not going to be producing seeds anyway, or not viable seeds. But you want the plants that, get a little bit sick but bounce back, right? Those are the ones that are your good, strong genetics. They're like the kid who gets the award in middle school, who never missed a bloody day. And he's always a kid that the teachers really wish would miss a day or two, right? He never gets sick, he never gets colds, anything like that. Or if he does, he comes to school anyway, right? That's the kid that you want the seeds from, right? So that's what I mean. It is important to save all the genetics you can. That's where your resilience is going to come from.
Oh, that's interesting.
And I think I did also mention that, especially in a bad fall, you can ripen seeds indoors, right? That you can take I mean, I have had, well, usually I have, because it is Cape Breton, I usually have, towers and towers of baking trays with ripening tomatoes on them. The germination will be lower. There's no way around that. But if, but in a pinch, if that's the only seeds you're going to get, do it anyway. You can make up for poor germination if you have to. So.
And so you mentioned harvesting in the fall. If people, have really bright, juicy, nice tomatoes coming out now, can you save those too, or is it best to
Oh,
wait?
absolutely. It's just in Cape Breton, we don't until the end of August, If you're from the mainland, you're a lot luckier than I am. But yes, no, anytime you've got the tomatoes, I would probably wait until sort of the mid-season, actually, if you have a mid-season, just because the pollination tends to be a bit better, and that means the fruit set and the germination will be a little bit better. But honestly, if you're nervous, about how many tomatoes you're going to have to ripen, do the first fruits, do the middle fruits, do the final fruits. If you were really picky, well, you would obviously ferment them separately anyway. But if you were really picky, and I am sort of picky, when I can be, is I would not store the seeds all mixed together. I would keep them separate and label them, the first fruits, middle, last, or whatever like that, just because you may get some differences in germination, and you don't want to dilute, the good germination ones with maybe ones that are a little poorer germinating. So, but that's really picky stuff, right? Don't worry about that, especially if you're just starting out. So, oh my goodness, you've got a whole herd there. Twice the fun, eh?
What's your preferred way of ripening? I typically throw them all in a cardboard box with the apple, but I don't know. What's your?
Yeah, that's really the best way, and I mean, so, try and keep them warm, anything below 10 degrees. And that's kind of hard. I keep my house kind of cool in the winter, or in the fall rather. I don't like to light fires and do all that stuff until, I'm just cold-blooded or something anyway. So, but if you can find a sort of a warmish place to, and you go and you check, and the ones that are, start to get all weepy and watery, you throw out and everything like that. If they develop black blight spots, you know, you may as well throw it out. There might be a few viable seeds there, but you don't really want those. Yeah. Yeah. So that works. On the vine is best, but this is Nova Scotia and it's climate change and we just don't know. So hedge your bets, you know, that's it. So, especially, but you'll find that especially beefsteak ones, they're very hard to ripen on the vine, you know, properly, because they need to really ripe, not, you know, even a little overripe. I mean, I tend to err on the side of a little just ripe because I want to eat them as well as save seeds. I'm a little bit greedy that way, but usually I have so many tomatoes, I should stop doing that really. But you want it overripe if you can. This is really replicating what will happen in the wild with tomato plants, you know, in Mexico or the Central America where they originated. These fruits would get really overripe, would fall to the ground, all fermenting, and then they would resprout. So we're just trying to replicate that. So the one
here, that's what I have little patches of like 50 or 60 tomato plants that come up because that's what happens.
Yeah.
And then I just send them out. I might, you know, I'll just let it grow or whatever. But
yeah. The only trouble is if it was from a hybrid, you don't know if you're going to get any good tomatoes. And generally speaking, in Canada, tomato seeds that start from seed in the ground don't often get picked, you know, unless you've got a really fantastic growing season that year. You know, I mean, I've tried that, and I part of it's also I'm tender-hearted. It's like, oh, they grew, I have to help them, right? You know, but honestly, they very rarely grow big enough to harvest a lot of tomatoes from, because they really need to be started indoors where I'm from. But if you're on the mainland, you might have better luck with that than me. So,
yeah. I've had great success with it because, like, I don't know what kind they are, but last year I didn't really plant tomatoes. The ones that grew on their own in my deep mulch in the full sun, they just off. But I had to cover them with sheets for the last, like, to get the extra like 4 weeks. So I would cover them a few times just to get them through, but I didn't prune them, so the leaves protected the fruit from the frost.
Yeah.
But yeah, they grew. They're aroma type.
They were aroma type, so they were all very consistent. Yeah. See, so they must have come from an open pollinated variety. Maybe you're developing your own variety there that's adapted to your conditions, you know? Who knows? You'll have to figure out which.
It's compost.
What's that?
Like, I'll end up with tomatoes just grow everywhere here. I weed them out like poppies too. Like, they just come out of my compost. And potatoes. Like, I shouldn't put potatoes in the compost anymore because the eyes survive and they come everywhere.
Wow.
That's wild.
So where are you located?
Hillsborough, like near Moncton, New Brunswick.
Oh, okay. All right. No, fair. You guys have those most amazing growing season. So warm and everything like that. Yeah, okay. I really hate you now. Yeah, no, I've been to the market gardens around Moncton. They're amazing. It's wonderful. But yeah. So you can take most of my advice with a grain of salt. All the whining and complaining I do about wet balls, you know. You
You never know, right? With climate change, our season could be cut off.
Yes,
and
that's
still important things to learn. Either cut off or like starting too late, or you never know. So.
Yeah, no, it's true. Or a hurricane, you know.
Yeah.
You know, anything can happen. You're absolutely right. Yeah.
I don't know if you had any questions.
No, I don't know. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, okay. No, someone came to put up an awning just as you guys came on. So I was kind of late signing in. Do I understand that this was recorded?
It was, yeah. So you can catch the beginning later.
Yeah, I'll look at the first 15 or 20 minutes and then I'll know what you're talking about.
Okay. Yeah.
We were real late. I'm mixed up with the Digby Community Garden we were in a building phase this year, and we're really just planting stuff out now.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So you're taking a bit of a chance, aren't you? Well, Digby, you get a long season there.
Yeah, I mean, as long as you don't plant something that's going to take 100 days,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah, exactly.
you keep it 60, 70 days, we'll be fine.
Yeah, that's true. And as I was saying earlier, you know, you can ripen things for seed indoors if you want. You know, I do it regularly. You know, you just lose a little in the germination. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the seed, that's something new for me. I've never really tried to use my own seeds. We've always purchased, so this is just something we want to try to learn a little about.
Well, that's good. I think that you'll find the beginning 10 minutes or something like that helpful, because I forget which one is Charlene, but anyway, we were talking about what to do with the beginner, the minimum population and the isolation distance and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So
And the isolation distance is an issue because lots of people have gardens here, right? Tomatoes, it's not too bad, but there are some, I've forgotten. We received some seeds to grow out, and one of them had like 1,000 meters or something like that. Well, it's pretty hard to tell what's growing in 1,000 meters.
I know. Well, squash plants especially, because they have to be pollinated by an insect, right? You know, they're a kilometer away. So what I do when I grow only one variety from each species of squash every year. I don't double up or try and do anything like that. You can tape blossoms and you can do all that, but that's really hard to do and maintain the minimum population size, right?
Yeah.
So what I did, you know, now mind you, I am in the country, I'm not in town, so it might be a different thing in town. But what I do is I grow squash plants for my neighbors, right? And I say, will you please plant this one this year? And that's great, right? You know, and I'm growing out plants anyway. So the neighbors are not very close, but that just sort of hedges my bets. I've only got 2 or 3 neighbors that I need to do that for. So that's a solution around it. And it's a very neighborly thing to do too. It's sort of, everybody feels like they're in on it. So
they're waiting for spring.
They're waiting for spring. Yes, that's right. Oh, what weird squash are we going to, is Michelle going to get to grow us this year?
That's fun.
That's probably take in for today.
Yeah, we get some kids we gotta feed.
Yeah.
I understand.
Hopping on, folks. We'll do the sunflower one in a few weeks. I haven't scheduled that one yet, and then beans is going to be August 5th. If anyone here is doing bean saving,
Okay.
I'll know about it soon.
Great.
We have some people saving bean seeds.
Oh, okay, great. So you'll want to join that one if you're able.